Oh man, boycotts don't work. That one exception of the Bud Light thing? Oh man, that's just a one-off. What are you doing, dude? Well, it kind of turns out that, hey, maybe there is something to that whole conservative outrage, and when you just piss off your core consumer base, well, guess what? There are some consequences at the end of the day. Target, much like Bud Light, had their quarterly sales report, and spoilers, it ain't great. Target reports first quarterly sales drop in 6 years after Pride Month disaster. No, they lost money. Conservatives are powerless. Shut up, you stupid hicks, and just buy from the store and shut your mouth. We're here with progress, and you're a bigot if you don't support us. Well, you're also going to be broke if you don't support us. So, hey man, money talks and bullshit walks, and pride enthusiasts don't reproduce. Target said its quarterly sales fell for the first time in 6 years as a result of for the first time in 6 years. Well, that covers the pandemic years, which they were allowed to open and operate for. But for the first time in 6 years, they were down. Interesting. The results of customers' negative reaction to its spring Pride clothing collection that featured duck-friendly swimwear and gay-friendly gear for infants and children. Target CFO Michael Fidelke, addressed Target's disastrous rainbow-clad collection in an earnings call on Wednesday, saying traffic and top-line trends were affected by the reaction to our Pride assortment. Sales at stores and digital channels open for at least a year were off 5.4% from earlier in the year. Ooh, so that's not even brick and mortar customers. That is online as well. You guys massively screwed up. Oh well, according to Target's quarter 2 earnings report released Wednesday, when digital sales slipped 10.5%. Yo, those are some Bud Light numbers right there. Fidelke said that the call and the retailers couldn't quantify the impact of the Pride collection alone had on comparable sales, because we do have some additional information which, hey man, if we're going to be talking about the effect of the right on this situation, might as well address the left, but we have plenty of time for that. Brian Cornell, who's been Target's CEO since 2014, chimed in, adding the impact of inflation contributed to the quarter's losses. Oh yeah, blame it on everything except for the fact that you pissed off your customers and there were ready, willing, and able alternatives that are out there. People who were like, I guess I can go to Walmart, unless of course you're in Portland or Chicago, but I think those same places also rolled up their Targets as well. Though foot traffic to Target stores recovered steadily in July, customers were purchasing food and other essentials rather than spending on apparel and impulse purchases. Oh, so they just treated it like a standard grocery store where it's really tough outside of the cylindrical vegetable department. Really didn't have to think about politics or sexual orientation. Target's revenue for a 3-month period ended July 29th was $24.8 billion. Well, that sounds great. 4.9% lower than this time last year. Oh, that doesn't sound good at all, but it's inflation, right? The figure was slightly under the $25.2 billion economists expected, though the dip isn't surprising considering Target stock lost nearly $14 billion as the Pride Month controversy grabbed headlines. Yeah, but unfortunately it didn't have the staying power as Bud Light did, because they actually did something correct. They shut the fuck up instead of making ridiculous statements claiming that their customers, no, you guys just don't know. It's just one can. You're chronically online people. Shut up and drink the beer, bigots. Why aren't they coming out? We got new ads and all that. See, you hillbillies like football, right? We'll have the Travis Kelce come in and he won't touch a beer can and he'll just grunt and shit. That's what you guys like, right? Why is nobody showing up? What's happening? The hefty losses were the result of the boycott that lasted over 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks, a month, 6 weeks. I guess it is more than 2 weeks, so that is factually true. Metaphorically true? That's a different story. Triggered by Target's release of Pride in May, an LGBTQ-friendly line that included clothing for children. Not just groomer apparel, okay? Tuck your It's even tough for me to say because it's so fucking perverse. But just go ahead and tuck your dick between your legs, Sally. I'll just pretend that you don't have mental illnesses. Customers accused Target of grooming children with their items. Yeah, and we went through the laundry list of items that they had. And didn't really sell much of them. But yeah, you can see the display that's right up there. Just a whole bunch of rainbow gimmicks back when times were a little bit more simple. All those months ago. And it's so funny. Some of the most unrealistic shit that they have on display right there is the poster that they have on the left side of the picture. Together, black family. Lol. Customers accuse Target of grooming children with their items, including alt-right rapper Fergagio Blow. Isn't he black? Or at least he's half. Is that how inclusive the alt-right has gotten? I don't know. I don't fuck around with that weird stuff, but okay. Who topped iTunes charts with the rap song Boycott Target. It was pretty catchy. It was definitely a funny video, that's for true. That addressed the gay agenda that the rapper sings has gone too far. Well, yeah, exactly. Why have you seen them roll back so much in the previous few months? Fierce backlash from conservative consumers, including reactions that turned aggressive in some stores. What, like the bomb threats that were called in by the gay groups? Don't want to address those, right? But no. Just a couple of influencers, social media influencers turning up and wanting signs. You're going to go ahead and, yeah, say that those were, oh, look at how violent those goddamn conservatives get. Meanwhile, you don't want to talk about violent theft, and threats of violence have more than doubled in Targets. Oh, interesting. Thefts at Targets have become increasingly violent and dangerous for staffers, the retail giant CEO told investors on Wednesday. Shoplifting, that included violence or threats of violence, surged 120% for the first 5 months of the year. This is so horribly worded, my mistake, said Brian Cornell, the chief executive of the Minneapolis-based big box chain. Our team continues to face an unacceptable amount of retail theft and organized retail crime. Where? Specifically, name the places so we can check the policies. Do it. Cornell said during the company's second quarter earnings call. Unfortunately, safety incidences associated with theft are moving in the wrong direction. But no, all of those dastardly conservatives that are making things awkward for couple of days, a few one-off instances. Just go ahead and point to the exceptions instead of just the mobs that continue to turn up to your places and walk out of your stores with just handfuls of clothing, which I'm sure they need in order to feed and clothe their families. Cornell said the Target's inventory shrink, which accounts for retail theft and other losses of merchandise, is well above the sustainable level where we expect to operate over time. Yep. National Retail Federation, the nation's largest retail trade group, said that the latest security survey of roughly 60 retailers found shrink clocked in at an average rate of 1.4% last year, representing $94.5 billion in losses. Yeah, that's actually not all that bad. 1.4%. Normally, yeah, you want to operate between 1 and 2%, at least in the time when I was dealing with shrink and all that stuff. If you've worked merchandising or in retail stores before, you've definitely heard the term before. The greatest portion of shrink, 37%, came from external theft. Yeah, that's rarely ever the case. I could be completely out of date. It's been a long time since I've had to deal with that stuff, but yeah. It's normally internal, that's the big one, and the external only accounts for a very small portion. But to see the flip like this, yeah, makes sense, especially with all the videos and all of the lax policies and a bunch of big blue cities that are out there. Makes a lot of sense, including products taken during organized shoplifting incidences. Yes, the trade group says, just call it exactly what it is, but you won't. Fucking cowards. It also noted retailers on average saw a 26.5% uptick in organized theft incidences last year. Target reported its first quarterly sales drop in 6 years, contributed in part by the boycotts of the brand. No, man, but the amount of sales that you missed out on, you're just gonna say that it was for a couple of weeks. I would argue it was for a couple of months, but you take a look at the uptick when it comes to shoplifting. What exactly do you want to blame your sales losses on? Did a couple of conservatives being upset and showing up to your store and making it uncomfortable for a couple of your sales associates? Or the roving bands of bandits coming into your store and stealing everything, including the shopping carts? Because we can't take all this motherfucking shit by ourselves, motherfucker. Y'all see my hands is full with like clothes and sweaters and fucking microwaves and shit. You think I can carry this all out in one trip? Fuck you. Profit for the fiscal second quarter came in above expectations, however. Oh, really? As Target brought inventories closer in line with the cautious spending on discretionary items by customers. Yeah, revolutionary idea that we had right here. We brought in fewer items because fewer people were coming in. So yeah, our profits are up. See? Yeah, but we missed expectations. It's the exact same way they tried to massage the numbers with Bud Light. Oh, actually, we're up in a couple of areas. Don't mind the fact that we lost $40 billion in market cap and $396 million in American sales alone. Hilarious. But we're up in certain areas. Cornell also addressed the threats to staffers in the wake of the controversy surrounding the sale of gay merchandise during Pride Month. Did you mention the bomb threats? I highly fucking doubt it. In May, customers knocked down Pride displays at some stores. 2 instances. That's all I seen. And you guys know, if you were watching at the time, how closely I was watching all of this stuff. And yeah, there was one social media user, and one other account. And nobody outside of the couple of reports from mainstream outlets even touched on. I think it was either Daily Mail or New York Post who announced, it was somewhere on the West Coast, but then it was also in Ohio and Pennsylvania. Like, it was 3 or 4 states that had bomb threats, actual bomb threats called in because they didn't want to stick to their new progressive outlook on things. It was a leftist bomb threat, leftist aggression, but you don't want to talk about that. You want to minimize it, and you just want to go back and you just want to point to those those white supremacists that are out there. Are those the ones who are also stealing from the racks? No, you don't want to describe those, right? The backlash, which included boycotts, or calls to boycott the company over its sale of tuck-friendly bathing suits. Yeah, we already went over this. We denounce the violence and the hate of all kinds. Yes, exactly. Violence and hate. Unless, of course, it comes from certain demographics, and we're totally fucking fine with it. Our safety of our team and our guests is our top priority. Is that what you call the people that are walking out, and whenever they do, it makes a loud beeping noise? They're guests, right? Don't worry. They'll bring stuff back, or at least they'll come back when, their hands aren't as full. Despite the losses, Target will still be celebrating Pride Month in 2024, Cornell said. I can't wait for it. If I'm still making videos at the time, well, you know what we'll be talking about when, the cycle continues anew, because nobody's smart enough to realize that, it's kind of a dumb fucking thing, because you're trying to pander to a demographic who does an exceptionally great job. You don't even need the help of conservatives discouraging it. They do a great job of policing themselves. Well, at least 42% of the time. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.